Hello everyone, I am Dr.S.RAJESWARI, Associate Professor of Economics, A.D.M. College for Women, NAGAPATTINAM. Today we will discuss about the collection of data through questionnaire and schedules. There are different methods of data collection. In this video we will discuss about the data collection through questionnaire and schedules. See, what is meant by questionnaire? See, questionnaire, it is nothing but it consists of number of questions printed or typed in a definite order or on a form of set of forms. Okay, the questionnaire is mailed to respondents who are expected to read and understand the questions and write down the reply in the space meant for the purpose in the questionnaire itself. The respondents have to answer the questions on their own. Okay, what are the merits of this questionnaire? See, there is a low cost even when the universe is large and is widely spread geographically. And second one, it is free from the bias of the interviewer, answers or in the respondents' own words. Third one, the respondents have adequate time to give well thought out answers, and respondents who are not easily approachable in this method, they can also be reached conveniently, and large samples can be made use of, and thus the results can be made more dependable and reliable. Next, what are the demerits of this method? See, first one, a low rate of return of the duly filled in questionnaires and also the bias due to non-response is often indeterminate, and it can be used only when respondents are educated and cooperating. The control over questionnaire may be lost once it is sent. And next one, there is inbuilt inflexibility. And another demerit is also the possibility of ambiguous replies or omissions of replies. And another one, this method, it is very difficult to know whether willing respondents are truly representative or not, and this method is also likely to be the slowest of all. And next, what is meant by pilot study? See, pilot study or survey, it is nothing but what? For testing the questionnaires, that is called pilot study. In a big inquiry, the significance of pilot survey is felt very much, and also the pilot survey is, in fact, it is a replica and a reversal of the main survey. Okay, next, what are the main aspects of questionnaire? See, this questionnaire, it contains general form, question sequence and question formulation and wording. See, first one, what is meant by general form? See, the general form, it can either be structured or unstructured questionnaire. See, in this, the structured questionnaires are those questionnaires in which there are definite, concrete and predetermined questions. Second one, the questions are presented with exactly the same wording and in the same order to all respondents. And third one, the form of the question may be either closed, that means what? It is the type of yes or no type, or open, that means inviting the free responses, but it should be stated in advance and not constructed during questioning. Okay, so the structured questionnaires, it also have fixed alternative questions in which the responses of the informants are limited to the stated alternatives. Next, question sequence. See, what is question sequence? That is order of questions. See, to make the questionnaire effective and to ensure quality to the replies received, and a researcher should pay attention to the question sequence in preparing the questionnaire. So, the question sequence must be clear and smoothly moving, that meaning thereby that the relation of one question to another, it should be readily apparent to the respondent. with the questions that are easiest to answer. Next, the questions that put to great strain on the memory or intellect of the respondents. So next, the question is the personal character, and the question it may be related to personal wealth, etc. Next, question formulation and wording. See what is meant by question wording and formulation. This aspect, the questionnaire, the researcher should note that each question must be very clear, for any sort of misunderstanding can do irreparable. And second one, to be successful questionnaire, it should be comparatively short and simple. That means the size of the questionnaire should be kept to the minimum. So the question should be proceed in logical sequence. And third one, the technical terms and vague, that is not clear, expressions capable of different interpretations should be avoided in a questionnaire. The questions may be dichotomous, that is yes or no answers, multiple choice alternative answers listed, or open-ended questions. See, next, collection of data through schedules. Okay, so in this method, the data collection is very much like the collection of data through questionnaire, which are little differences, which lies in the fact that schedules, that is what? Proforma containing a set of questions. Okay, so it is being filled in by enumerators who are specially appointed for the purpose. So these enumerators along with the schedules and go to respondents and put to them questions from the proforma in the order. The questions are listed and record the replies in the space meant for the same in the proforma. Okay. Next, in certain situations, the schedules may be handed over to the respondents, and the enumerators may help them in recording their answers to various questions in the above said schedules. So the enumerators explain the aims and objectives of the investigations, and also remove the difficulties which any respondent may feel in understanding the implications of a particular questions or the definition or concept of difficult terms. Next, what is the difference between questionnaire and schedule? So, first, the questionnaire is generally sent through mail to the informants or respondents to be answered as specified in a covering letter. So, the schedule is generally filled out by the researcher or worker or the enumerator who can interpret questions whenever necessary. Okay. Second one, to collect the data through questionnaire is relatively cheap and economical, since we have to spend money only in preparing for the questionnaire and in mailing the same to the respondents. But here no field of stock required. And another one, that is schedule, is to collect data through schedules. It is relatively more expensive, and it seems considerable amount of money has to be spent in appointing enumerators. Next difference, non-response is usually high in case of questionnaires, as many people do not respond and many return of the questionnaire without answering all questions. And sometimes the bias due to non-responses often remains indeterminate. As against this, the non-response is largely very low in case of schedules, because these are filled by enumerators who are able to get answers to all questions. But these remains the danger of interview bias and cheating. In case of questionnaire, it is not always clear as to who replies, but in case of schedules, the identity of respondents is known. Next, the questionnaire method is likely to be very slow, since many respondents do not return the questionnaire in time despite several reminders. But in case of schedules, the information is collected well in time, as they are filled in by enumerators. Next difference, the postal contact is generally not possible in case of questionnaire method, as questionnaires are sent to the respondents by post, who also in return to the same by post. But in case of schedules, direct personal contact is established with the respondents. Next difference, questionnaire method can be used only when respondents are literate and cooperative. But in case of schedules, the information can be gathered when even when the respondents happen to be illiterate. And another difference, that is wider and more representative distribution of people is possible under the questionnaire method. But in respect of schedules, it is usually remains the difficulty in sending enumerators over a relatively wider area. In case of that is questionnaire, the risk of collecting incomplete and wrong information is relatively more under the particularly when people are unable to understand. But in case of schedules, the information collected generally complete and accurate, as enumerators can remove the difficulties if any faced by respondents in incorrectly understanding the questionnaires. The success of the questionnaire method lies more on quality of the questionnaire itself. But in case of schedules, much depends upon the honesty and the competence of enumerators. In order to attract the attention of respondents, the physical appearance of questionnaire must be quite attractive, but this may not be so in case of schedules, as they are to be filled in by enumerators and not by respondents. Along with schedules, observation method can also be used, but such a thing it is not possible while collecting the data through questionnaire. Other methods of data collection, that is warranty card and a distributor or store audits. See, through the warranty cards are usually postal sized cards which are used by easiest method of method, and also it is easier or desired of the consumer durables to collect information regarding their products. Okay, that is dealer of consumer durables to collect information regarding their products. Next, distribution or store audits. It is nothing but it is performed by distributors as well as manufacturers through their salesmen at regular intervals. So, the distributors get the retail stores audited through salesmen and use such information to estimate market size, market share and seasonal purchasing pattern and so on. And pantry audits. See, it is a technique is used to estimate consumption of the basket of goods at the consumer level. In this type of audit, the investigator collects an inventory of types and quantities and the prices of commodities consumed, and it is also the data are recorded from the examinations of consumers' pantry. Next one, consumer panels. See, what is consumer panels? The extension of pantry audit approach on a regular basis is known as consumer panel, where a set of consumers are arranged to come and understanding to maintain detailed daily records of their consumption, and same is made available to the investigator on demands. Next are depth interview. See, depth interviews are those interviews that are designed to discover underlying motives and desires and are often used motivation research. So, such interviews are held to explore needs, desires and feelings of the respondents. Next, content analysis. See, it consists of analyzing the content documents, documentary materials such as books, magazines, newspapers and the contents of all other verbal materials which can be either spoken or printed. Content analysis prior to 1940s was mostly quantitative analysis of documentary materials. So, but since 1950s, the content analysis is mostly qualitative analysis concerning the general impact of or message of the existing documents. Next, projective techniques. See, what is projective techniques? It is for the collection of data have been developed by psychologists to use the projection respondents for inferring about the underlying motives, urges or intentions, and word association test sentence completion test, story completion test, verbal projection test, and pictorial techniques. These are all the various methods. See, what is the thematic appreciation test, or otherwise it is called TAT. It consists of set of pictures. Some of the pictures are deal with ordinary or day-to-day events, while others may be ambiguous pictures of unusual situation. That it's shown to respondents or who are asked to describe what they think the pictures represents. Next, it is on sign test. So the test uses cartoon format, wherein we have a series of cartoons with the words inserted in balloons above. The respondent is asked to put his own words in an empty balloon space provided for the purpose in the interview. Next, Rochan method. This method consists of 10 cards having prints of ink plots. The design happens to be symmetrical but meaningless. The respondents are asked to describe what they perceive in such symmetrical ink plots are they and the responses. Next, Hartsman ink plot test. In this, it is consists of 45 ink plot cards. That is not and not 10 ink plots we were finding the case of Rorschach's method. So, which are based on color, movement, shading, and other factors involved in the ink plot perception. Only one response per card is obtained from the schedule, and the responses of subject are interpreted at 3 levels or forms of appropriateness. And the play techniques, faces test, examination, sociometry, these are all the various projective techniques. Collection of data through secondary data. See, the secondary data, it means data that are already available, that is, they refer to the data which have already been collected and analyzed by someone else. So, the secondary data may either be published data or unpublished data. For example, various publications of the central, state or local governments, various publications of foreign governments of the international bodies and their subsidiary organizations, technical and trade journals, books, magazines and newspapers, reports and publications of various associations connected with the business and industry banks, stock exchanges, etc. and reports prepared by research scholars, universities and economists, etc. Next, reliability of data. The reliability of data can be tested by finding out such things about said data, who collected the data, what were the sources of data, where they collected by using the proper method, and what time they collected, was there any bias of the compiler, what level of accuracy was desired, and it was achieved. Next, suitability of the data. The data that are suitable for one inquiry may not necessarily be found suitable in another inquiry. Hence, it is if the available data are found to be unsuitable, they should not be used by the researcher. Next, adequacy of data. If the level of accuracy achieved in data is found inadequate for the purpose of the present inquiry, they will be considered as inadequate and it should not be used by the researcher. Next, selection of appropriate method for data collection. It contains nature and scope of object of inquiry, availability of funds, time factor, precision required. And next one, what is case study? See, the meaning of case study is study is a very popular form of qualitative analysis, and it involves a careful and a complete observation of a social unit. It is unit of person, family, institution, cultural group, or then even the entire community. Okay, it is a method of study depth rather than breadth. Okay, so the case study places more emphasis on the full analysis of a limited number of events or conditions and their interrelations. So the case study is essentially an intensive investigation of the particular unit under such considerations. Next, what are the characteristics? See, it is a researcher can take one single social unit or more than such units for this study purpose. And the second one, here the selected unit is studied intensively, that is, it is studied in minute details. And in the context of this method, make complete study of the social unit covering all facets. Through this method, try to understand the complex of factors that are operative within the social unit and integrated totality. Okay, next one, in respect of the case study method, it is effort is made to know the mutual interrelationship of causal factors. Under the case study method, the behavior pattern of the concerning unit is studied directly and not by an indirect and abstract approach. Next one, the case study method results, it is a provable hypothesis. It may be listed as follows: the assumption of uniformity, assumption of studying the natural history of the unit concerned, and assumption of the comprehensive study of the unit concerned. There are various phases involved in the case study: recognition and determination of status of the phenomenon, collection of data, examination and history of the given phenomenon, and diagnosis and identification of causal factors, and application of remedial measures. Next one, what are the advantages? So, the case study method is enabled to understand fully the behavioral pattern of the concerned units. Next one, through the case study, the researchers can obtain a real enlightened record of personal experiences. And last one, this method enables the researchers to trace out the natural history of the social units. And it also helps in formulating relevant hypotheses. And this method it facilitates the intensive study of social units, which is generally not possible. And the information collected under the case study method, it helps to maintain or to know the researcher in the task of constructing the appropriate questionnaire or schedule. And the researcher can use one more and several research methods under the case study, and the case study method has proved beneficial in determining the nature of units to be studied, and this method is means to well understand the past of a social unit. It is also the technique to suggest measures for improvement. Next, it constitutes the perfect type of sociological material as they represent a real record of a personal experience which very often escape the attention of most of the skilled researchers using the other techniques. And the case study method, it enhances the experiences of the researchers, and this is in turn, it increases his analyzing ability and skill. And also, this method makes possible the study of social changes on account of the minute study of the different facets of the social unit. The researcher can well understand the social change then and now. Next, what are the limitations of this study? The case study method in some situations are seldom comparable, and such as the information gathered case studies is often not comparable. Next, Basin does not consider the case data as significant scientific data, since they do not provide knowledge of the impersonal, universal, non-ethical, non-practical, repetitive aspects of phenomena. The danger of the false generalization is always there in view of the fact that not set rules are followed in the collection of the information, and only few units are studied. And the consumers more time and requires lot of expenditures, and the case data are often important because the subject, it depends upon the subject matter. And the case study method, it is based on several assumptions, like it is very realistic and this at times, and such the usefulness of case data is always subject to doubt. And the responses of the investigator is an important limitation in case of study in the case study method. He often thinks that he has full knowledge of the unit and can himself answer about it. Next, conclusion. Despite the above stated limitation, The case studies are being undertaken in several disciplines, particularly in sociology, as a tool of scientific research in view of several advantages indicated earlier. So, most of the limitations can be removed if the researchers are always conscious of these and are well trained in the modern methods of collecting case data and in the scientific techniques of assembling, classifying and processing of the same. Besides, the case studies in modern times can be conducted in such a manner that the data are amenable to qualifications and statistical treatment. Possibly, this is also the reason why case studies are becoming popular day by day. Thank you.